Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new recent reads video. I feel like I haven't really said this recently, so please remember that my channel is pro-Palestine, and I wish to see the liberation of Palestine in my lifetime, but hopefully soon. So anyway, with that said, the first book on this list is called A Prayer for Vengeance. This story is a YA fantasy following an autistic main character who accidentally awakens a goddess who's set for revenge. I don't really know if that makes any sense, but this book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. First of all, the fast-paced plot as well as the absolutely so unique and awesome world building hooked me in immediately and did not let me go. This book is so fantastic. The mystery was so captivating. The characters are both so well developed and so distinct. I love their dual perspectives so much because their motivations and their desires made so much sense. Speaking of their desires, the romance made so much sense. It was so cute and it was so well paced and it was so adorable. I love their chemistry so much. This book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so good. It's so rich and it's so stunning. I don't really know if stunning is the right word to use here because I don't quite remember what the characters really look like. Even though when I'm reading a story in a book format, there's a movie playing in my head, but they don't quite have faces, if that really makes any sense. So anyway, I digress. The point is, this book is absolutely so good. The autism representation was spot on, and I love to see it, especially in a fantasy setting. So overall, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called The Someday Daughter. This story is a YA contemporary following a young, rising college freshman who is forced to spend the summer with her superstar self-help mother that she's never quite felt connected to. She's always felt like more of a promotional tool for her mother than her actual daughter. I don't really know if that makes any sense, but basically this book is absolutely so fantastic and it's so excellent. I really, really enjoyed it. First of all, the characters are so well developed and so distinct. I loved the main character's arc so much because I truly felt her vulnerabilities and her anxieties and her personality so much and so well, especially in the ways in which she interacts with her mother as well as all of the other characters. The romance, for example, is so well paced and it's so awesome. The friendships are so wonderful and so awesome. The writing is so lyrical and it's so pretty. Everything about this book was so awesome and it hooked me in immediately. This book is so good and it's so underrated. I truly, really, really enjoyed it so much. I had really low expectations prior to reading this book. Just because the author's debut last year, I rated 3 stars and I don't really remember anything about it. But this book is so good and it's so underrated and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars. I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called We Got the Beat. This story is a YA contemporary that follows a young plus-size sapphic main character who has thrown herself into journalism, but her new project requires her to talk to her old nemesis. I was really, really enjoying this book at first. I thought that I was hooked in, by the characters and the journalism side of it and the interviews and everything, and where I thought the romance was going to go and the friendships. But then I realized that the third act dragged on way too long, which took away from my enjoyment of the book, which means that my enjoyment of the book wasn't that concrete to begin with, if that makes any sense. So basically overall, I did like the characters and the romance and the friendships and the plot. It's just that overall, the third act, in my opinion, dragged on way too long, and it felt really unnecessary, and it kind of reminded me of my experience reading My Fair Lady, which I read a few weeks ago, and I also rated 3 stars. So yeah, I don't really know if that makes any sense at all, but basically overall, I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars, so take that as you will. The next book on this list is called A Tempest of Tea. This story is a YA fantasy following 3 main characters as they try to pull off a heist in a world that has vampires in it. This story is absolutely so excellent, and it's truly so riveting. First of all, the world building is unbelievably so immersive, and it's so inventive, and I love it so much because it's so rich and it's so stunning, and I loved the South Asian culture in it. Like, it's so good. Second of all, the plot is so engaging and it's so intriguing. I love heist books, especially in fantasy settings. Actually, only in fantasy settings, not so much in any other genre. But anyway, the characters are so well developed and so distinct. I loved each of their perspectives so much, and I loved their dynamic together. Literally, it makes so much sense. Like, the romance is so cute and it's so well done. One of the romances in this book that develops between 2 out of the 3 narrators in this book reminds me of the romance of the Ace of Shades Shadow Game trilogy. If you've read that trilogy, you know that that series is one of my favorites of all time. I constantly talk about how Amanda Foody is a genius. But anyway, I don't really know if that makes any sense if you haven't, like, read that series. But my point is, this book is so good. I loved the world building, I loved the plot, I loved everything about it. It's absolutely so captivating and it's so well done. With that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I'm so excited to read the sequel. So with that said, I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The next book on this list is called Bright Red Fruit. This story is a YA contemporary following a Sudanese main character as she navigates a new relationship as well as a new discovery of slam poetry. This story is absolutely so excellent and it's so well done. First of all, the free-verse format was so lyrical and absolutely so pretty. The characters are so well developed and so distinct. The family dynamics as well as the friendships made so much sense, and they each felt so authentic and so good. Like, the main character feels like such a real person, and I truly understood all of her emotions, from her happy ones to her not so happy ones. I don't really know if that makes any sense at all, but basically I was so immersed in the story from the beginning to the end. I remember having low expectations prior to reading this book because I DNF'd the author's debut, and maybe I'll consider giving it a second chance just because this book was so fantastic and it was absolutely so excellent and so good. I just really, really enjoyed every single second of it. Like, literally, this book is so underrated and it deserves so much more hype. So anyway, with all that said, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars, and I would definitely highly, highly recommend it. The last book on this list is called The Last Bookwanderer. For those who don't know, this book is a middle-grade fantasy conclusion to the Bookwanderer series that consists of 6 books. And in my opinion, this book series didn't really end well, just because I think that the original trilogy is definitely the best, or the original first 3 books. I don't know for sure. I would have to reread them to get a full, like, conclusion, but my opinion is the first 3 books were definitely the best. And then as the universe expanded and as the author added more and more characters, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the world building a lot. It's just that in this book, I felt like there were too many new characters and too much new stuff. And I felt like in this one, she spent too much time tying up loose ends. Then, like, I don't know. I know it's very hard to, like, conclude and end a series. It's just that for me, it feels like it's been more than a year since I've dived into this book, even though it hasn't. If that makes any sense. I just missed, like, the original feeling I felt when I started this series, and I feel like it didn't really end quite the same way. I don't really know if that makes any sense at all, but basically, like I said, the first 3 books in this series are definitely the best. I just didn't like the ways in which this series really ended. Again, I know it's really hard to end a series, and I can't really say much about that, but anyway, the point is, I rated this book 3 stars, so take that as you will. So, in conclusion, I've read 30 books so far this month, which today is February 27th, in case you were wondering for reference. I think that it's already March, maybe the middle of March when you're watching this video. But anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the taxi emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!